Good evening, welcome to Chiller Chat. I'm Brian Hogue, and tonight our guests are from the T.O.P.S Paranormal Investigation teams. We have Annette Holmes and Rod Fee. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you, Brian, for having us, absolutely.
Now, first of all, what is T.O.P.S? What does T.O.P.S stand for?
T.O.P.S actually is a breakdown of Titusville, Oil City, and then Paranormal Society. So that's how we arrive at T.O.P.S.
Okay.
I myself am from Oil City, Annette is from Titusville, so we've taken those two hometown origins and incorporated it into our name.
Okay, all right, easy enough. Well, when did you begin, and actually how did you begin?
I'd like to say that we officially founded in like December of 2016.
Okay.
For me, I think it was a trip to Gettysburg on a ghost investigation with another investigation team that led me to want to form my own. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed the way they handled the investigation. It was a good blend of technology and all the different mm-hmm. gizmos and gadgets that we use, as well as mediumship or psychics, involved as well.
Okay.
So, and I brought that back, and of course, knowing Annette and knowing her gifted abilities, found her interest in it as well, and mm-hmm. We decided we would just form our own, and that's sort of how we got started. Well,
now, Rod, while you're talking, mm-hmm. What got you interested to begin with in the paranormal?
That goes back to my early childhood. I would say I was probably 7, 8 years old. Mm-hmm. I would actually, every Sunday we would go to Grandma's house, and uh-huh. my grandfather had a really cool den, and he had all of these really neat, interesting books, and I just was very attracted to them. I would spend all afternoon mm-hmm. sitting in there reading through these books on ghosts and UFOs mm-hmm. and Bigfoot creatures and whatever I could find and read through, and I always had an interest in that, and that's sort of, and it's just exploded, into adulthood.
You're right.
So.
Well, Annette, how about you? What got you first interested in the paranormal?
For me, it's kind of been a lifelong thing. Again, I grew up in an Italian superstitious household.
Okay.
So I believe, it came through my family. And I would go to my parents and from a very young age, or my grandparents or whomever, and give them a message or see things in the house or whatever it was. And luckily, I wasn't committed, and they believed me, and they supported me. And so I don't know what it's like not to be interested in the paranormal. So it's been kind of a lifelong thing, and this has been a dream come true. It's actually fast-tracked. We may have not been around for very long, mm-hmm. but it just, as soon as we hit the ground, it just started taking off for us. So, I feel very blessed that we've been, given the opportunity. And so.
Wow. Well, now take us through what a typical investigation is like. How does it originate? The background check on the place, whether you do that or not, the property or the home, wherever you're going, and then the preparation involved. And then once you're there, now what?
Well, I guess as far as whether we determine that we want to investigate a mm-hmm. place, perhaps from word of mouth from friends or family, indicating or stating that something has happened at a particular location in the past, or somebody saw a ghost, or they heard a ghostly voice, or whatever the case may be. So there's investigations that we actually will conduct, and we're choosing to go there, mm-hmm. and then we'll actually have some, just the general public contact us too, and say, we feel we've something is going on and we would like you to come in and try to determine what that is.
Yeah.
And then, obviously we listen to the type of activity that's taken place, that they've experienced, get their experiences, and then do a little bit of a background check on the property. What has taken place there that we know that we can look at an archive, and then usually it involves, interviewing the witnesses, the eyewitnesses.
Okay.
So that's primarily, that's the start of an investigation.
Okay. What about the preparation as far as like, do you bring in equipment with you?
We do.
Okay.
Kind of to rewind a little bit, as far as speaking of the equipment, and so, of course, we went on that investigation, and in Gettysburg, and one of the I guess the parts of it that I was fascinated with was the spirit box session that we had conducted, and just how much intelligent responses that were coming through, and I felt, this is the area that I want to concentrate in. So we always have a spirit box, almost every investigation. It's what I feel the best way for them to communicate. Now, obviously, Annette receives communication differently, and sometimes they don't always like to talk to you using the spirit box, but of course they talk to her in other ways. So, I like using equipment. She uses her intuition and her gifts, and then typically that's how we determine. She'll documentate what she gets, I documentate what I get with the equipment, and then we do comparison.
Okay.
So.
Now see, you're the medium of the team, or one of them.
Right.
She's the lead medium.
The lead medium.
Right.
And how did you first, and maybe you've touched on this, but how did you first come to know that you had these abilities as a medium?
I guess, like I said, it's been kind of all natural to me. It's always come natural to me. But I really, it's been so long, I can't really pinpoint when, other than I started going to paranormal conferences way before this was like a big deal. Way back when Grant and Jason were nobody, and I met them, and I met Chip Coffey and Michelle and Tiffany Johnson and all these people. I started going to Penn State, and I started taking classes from them, and I thought, hey, wait, this is something I do all the time, so it just started coming to the forefront where they were using mediums about 17 years ago. So it was something I definitely wanted to break into. It was not mainstream, then. But I think what we try to do is I go in, I don't normally say too much to Rod about the location. Lori, same thing. If Lori's with me, she's our other medium. We break off into separate territories, and I use myself as they use their equipment. And like Rod said, they don't always speak to me through a spirit box. But they'll speak to me or Lori through other means. And so we use both of those together. And sometimes my stuff comes out a lot differently from Lori's, but we always seem to come to the same conclusion. And a lot of times I won't even talk about it for weeks. There are times where, he might wait. I have to process it. And then I receive before and I receive after. So it takes me a little while to get the complete puzzle sometimes. Sometimes it comes immediately. And sometimes I second guess myself, and then when we hit on the history, like we were talking, maybe I'll hit a library and look up something or talk to a local historian. And I think, oh, why was I second guessing myself? That's what I was getting, and I should have went with it, but that's how it works for me. And like I said, it takes me sometimes, like when he has to go through the spirit box sessions, it might take him weeks. It sometimes takes me a while, and sometimes I draw things out too. So yeah, there's a lot of ways we do things.
I mean, typically we try not to share what we've gathered immediately. I will wait for her, because it does sometimes take a additional time for those messages to come through to her. Where, you know, we may do a 45-minute to an hour recording, asking different questions, and it does take some time to go through and analyze all of that, that recording, but I try to hold on to that and allow, at first I would not do that, and I would, you know, be very eager to, listen to what I found, and listen to this answer to a question, and really what we found is that maybe she hasn't received everything at that point from the investigation, so I kind of hold off and I wait for her now, so.
Well, the spirits are not on your time, you're on the spirits' time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of makes sense, you know. One thing I thought was interesting, though, about psychic mediums, is this something that anybody can do? Is this a learned skill, or is this something that only a select few are gifted with? What's your opinion on that?
My opinion on that is everyone has intuition. You're born with it.
Right.
So just depending on where you want to take it, it can be learned.
Okay.
But there's also people that just have natural abilities, and those people, you know, vary in abilities. It could be, you know, just from, and what you want to do with it. You know, you can go out and do readings, or you can be involved in the paranormal. It's endless. For me, it's endless.
Yeah.
You know, but it is learned. I do teach classes, you know, on everything from chakra balancing to, so there's a respect and a process to it, I guess is what I'm saying, to learn it. But it can be learned. And again, like I said, the lineage mediums, which means people have had it in their family or passed on, usually are stronger than just like a normal person that maybe wants to learn it. But yeah, you can absolutely develop your intuition. Anyone can.
Now, as far as your investigation goes, how do you use your medium abilities during the investigation? Because that's something that, and I don't know that much about the paranormal investigations. I've gone out with a few, I think I bought my mic. I've gone out with a few of the teams. I've never seen a medium with them. And I find that part of what you do very interesting, because you're using technology with whatever the ability that you bring to the table.
Right.
So, I mean, what do you do
when I go,
during an investigation?
First off, sometimes I will look up the history of a location first.
Okay.
Sometimes I won't. I try not to. So I'll go to a location, and usually he just lets me go, or the team lets me go, or they let me and Lori just go.
Okay.
So while they're setting up, her and I or myself, I'll just walk around and just see what starts, you know, coming to me. How, when, where, whatever, you know, they want to talk to me about or show me. And then the other thing that when Rod was talking about doing his work, he will write down all the EVPs that he gets, and I won't listen to the sessions until I will actually read his stuff, and then I'll pull out what I'm getting from just written before I will actually, sometimes I don't even listen. Right. Because I will receive what, after he just writes out what they're saying, I'll piece it together like a puzzle with what I get. Okay. So, but I prefer not, like I said, I usually don't talk too much people on the team. A lot of times, I don't know anything about their work as far as setup, any of that. I just... You don't want to pre-form your opinion. No. And I will, from time to time, maybe pick up a small piece of equipment, but very rarely. So. Okay.
And I mean, just to kind of couple off of what what Annette has just mentioned, as far as the equipment that we use, so Spirit Box is very, I would say, very adamant in every investigation standard. But we use EMF detectors, we use full spectrum cameras, we use
cell phone pictures.
Yeah, I mean, cell phones,
anything.
Digital recorders.
Yeah.
Just, we've got a slew of equipment, and it really just depends on what we feel will work best in each situation, so each investigation.
Well, Rod, has anything ever happened during an investigation that's caused you to fear or have great concern that maybe you weren't safe?
Yeah, actually, I rely heavily on the mediums.
Okay.
As far as what they're feeling, and if they're feeling unsafe or perhaps uneasy at a particular location, then and I don't get that feeling. I'm oblivious to it, I guess. And just recently, we were investigating locally here, and we felt, it was brought to Annette's attention that that the spirit that was there, the spirits that were there, felt intruded upon.
Okay.
And so our equipment, my particular spirit box session was reacting to an energy that I've never experienced, and it has never reacted that way. At the same time, she became very ill and upsetting and very anxious, and she left. So, which I saw her leaving, and I said, "Is everything okay?" And she doesn't even really remember that, but she said, "No, yes, no," so then I got very uneasy feeling.
Understandably, yeah.
And so I've learned heavily to watch the mediums, just because I personally don't get that feeling.
Right.
And that it was quite scary. And so, and without alarming the other crew, I just simply said, "You know what? I think it's time for us to move to someplace else in the building," and that's what we did. And but. So I rely heavily, and I do watch her and Lori for warning signs, I guess.
Yeah.
If a particular investigation, may not necessarily be in our favor as far as the energy. So.
Well, Annette, when you were sensing that, I mean, you could sense that this was negative. I take it. I mean, this is something negative. It wasn't just something indifferent to where you didn't start, you were feeling bad, but is this something that you felt a little fearful of?
I have been placed in situations where they seem to like to scare me a little bit, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But I get an uneasy feeling, and so I'll get these feelings first, and it's basically energy shifts. So, the energy will shift around me.
Okay.
I'll start maybe feeling lightheaded or whatever. But that night, several of my team members were also feeling lightheaded. So my job is also to protect them.
Okay.
So I try my best to be aware of what's going on for everybody too. This was definitely a situation that was very different from, I think, anything that we've encountered.
Yes.
And so I think I was a little confused on where and what to do first. So I thought if I got myself out, cleared my mind, then I'd get maybe a better picture of what was going on.
Right.
But later on, I kind of figured out what was going on. Basically, they felt intruded upon.
Okay.
And rightfully so. We had our whole team there.
Yeah.
We have some that are not quite as experienced as others. We have some new people that need some training, and they will sense that. They'll sense that right away.
Is that right?
They usually let me know in one way or another, or Lori or somebody. But like I said, that's also part of our jobs as mediums is to sense that energy shift and get everybody to a safe area, or just stop the investigation if we had to.
Right.
So.
Well, once you've detected a spirit, whether it be a positive energy, but let's say a negative energy, okay, what's next? I mean, is your team part of a cleansing process for the house or property, or or do you refer that to somebody else?
Well, we do a little of both.
Okay.
With this particular situation that we were talking about, I got everybody out of there, and I kind of had to process, like I say, I always call it process the information. Once I processed it and then started receiving what they were actually trying to tell us. I don't think they really meant to scare us or hurt us, but they were very well feeling we intruded on their I think we were probably the first paranormal team in this local place. And so I did go back in and I did do a little bit of clearing. And I've been back to that location and it's completely free. Now, if we would run into something that I felt was beyond my capabilities, we do have somebody in the Pittsburgh area. Lori on our team also will do some.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll never get into a situation, you know, where it's that bad. And, you know, I can tell right away whether I want to be in a place, and I'm very careful about where I place myself and my team. So I'll avoid it if necessary. And when we screen for, you know, what people are experiencing, we'll pass it off. I mean, we know several teams from the Pittsburgh area or Erie area that are better suited. So, you know, but
better suited for like something of a negative energy that you're not.
Right. I'm just not going to put myself in that situation.
Right.
And I won't put my team.
We talking like a demon, for example?
Right.
Okay.
And that's something that you learn, you know, just by experience, so.
Right. Well, how often, you started the group in December of 2017? 16, okay, 16. Now, how often do you get called to do a paranormal investigation?
Well, it's not every day. I mean, obviously, you know, we're number one, making ourselves known, and number two, not everybody's always willing to tell you that they've got activity. And of course, they'll even agree to have you come out, because that's one of the very first things we ask. Well, we would love to come out and, you know, do a quick investigation or do an in-length investigation. But when it starts to get real for those people, you know, when we try to actually sit down or schedule a time to come out, they're not always willing at that point, or eager. So we've had many cases where, you know, we've done our fact-finding, we've listened to their stories, and then it actually comes to that time when we need to come out and start gathering evidence, and they sort of get cold feet. And so that happens a lot. But we do actually have, you know, some, I like to refer to them more as commercial cases versus residential.
Okay.
They're always more willing to have us come out, and we are working on a case, and we have been working on a case since December of last year, that if we can get it put together, which we've got about one more investigation I would think that we need to have, and we're really hoping that it's going to kind of blow the doors and off of the in the paranormal realm. So I mean, we'll see. Well,
when you say commercial compared to residential, what are you referring to? Like a commercial, like a hospital or something, or?
Well, it could be a hospital, or just in general, you know, a business. Okay. Usually business owners are a little more at ease of having us come in if they're experiencing, you know, activity versus, you know, and which kind of makes sense, because, you know, when people are experiencing things in their homes, well, that's their home. Yeah. You know? And there's probably a part of them that feels intruded upon, and at the same time, you know, by having us come in, is it going to make it worse? You know, is the activity going to increase? And so there's a lot, I think, just a little more personable feeling involved when it comes to somebody with a residential. Now, obviously, if they're having, you know, very serious things happening, and perhaps, you know, if people are being physically affected, you know, physically injured, which we have not really had too many opportunities in that realm, but, you know, obviously they would probably be a little more open to having us come in.
Anxious to get you in there.
Yeah, anxious to have us come in and be able to figure out what's going on and how can we make it stop, you know?
Right.
So.
Well, do you have any investigations? You mentioned something, but do you have any that you're currently on or that you're preparing for? Or both?
Well, we actually have a little bit of both, but
okay.
I will say it's here in the area, within the Tri-County area, we are working in a business, and we've been working on it since like December of last year, early December of last year. Through the Spirit Box and through the ITC work that we complete, we're getting a lot of messages. Annette is receiving a lot of messages as well, just from the intuitive side. Mm-hmm. Messages that are coming through on Spirit Box, messages that she's receiving are definitely, they definitely cohere to one another, and we're very excited where this case is going. We feel that there was perhaps wrongdoing, or even perhaps murder.
Wow.
Involved, and so we're listening, and they are definitely giving us plenty of message, and they're even giving us it's like geological location. So.
Well, now, have you ever considered? You mentioned murder.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever considered working with law enforcement, or has anybody from law enforcement contacted you, or are you just? You think you're too new yet for them to know
now, that's a great
that
question,
your services are available?
I mean, it's a great question, mm-hmm. Brian. And well, to answer the last part of your question is, are we too new? No, I don't feel we are. We could probably certainly, if that spirit is willing to provide information, we would certainly provide that to authority. And we would probably get authority involved in this particular case too. We don't feel we're ready to do that yet.
Okay.
We want more information before we go that far. And obviously, we're working with a business owner, and we're working with a landowner, and that we've got to take their interest into consideration as well. So.
Okay. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. It's like Scooby-Doo to us,
Right.
Yeah.
There's so many layers, and they just keep giving us more and more information. Yeah, there's so many layers, and they just keep giving us more and more information. Mm-hmm. And I think what is blowing me away is exact locations on the property.
Oh,
and,
okay.
I actually walked the property and by myself, and so when it all added up together, we were just like, wow, they really want us to know what happened here.
Okay.
So but again, like you said, where do you get involved and how much do you get involved?
Yeah.
This may go back to the early 70s.
Right.
Wow.
So, where are you with it, and what is the business owner willing to get involved? And we've already talked to him about, what are you willing to do or get involved with? And, so it's kind of, because it goes back to the 70s, where do you take it? We also work with, we also do consultant work with other paranormal groups.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ops out of Pittsburgh and many, many other groups in Pennsylvania. So they contact us because we do a lot of different type of work than what they're used to doing. So on top of the cases that are coming in, we're helping them, and we're being invited to do investigations with them. So, like I said, it's fast-tracked.
Yeah.
It's definitely fast-tracked.
Well, if someone suspects paranormal activity on their property and their home, how do they get in touch with T.O.P.S? How do they get in touch with you?
That's a great question. We do have a website. It's just topsparanormal.com.
Okay.
It's a work in progress. But it does have our key contact points, email and telephone numbers. So yeah, that's primarily, the best way. Now, obviously, we show up at different conferences and throughout northwestern Pennsylvania into Ohio. So, you know, yeah, if we're there, come see us.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Rod Fee, Annette Holmes from T.O.P.S Paranormal Investigation. Thank you so much for being guests on Chiller Chat tonight.
Thank you very much, Brian. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and we want to thank you for tuning in once again to watch Chiller Chat, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night, everyone.
How many times do I have to tell you, just because something isn't good doesn't mean it's bad?
Oh, jeez.